What is up, everybody? Welcome back for another episode of the Giveaway Show. I'm Carlos Collects Comics, and I'm glad that you're here hanging out with us tonight. It'll be a little bit shorter episode tonight, but it's gonna be cool because we're gonna be talking about the theme of resurrection in comic books. Because you know the old adage, nobody in comic books ever stays dead. We've seen plenty of them, so we'll talk about some of the most famous ones. And then I'm going to showcase a little a cool pickup that I've got here. I've got a couple of giveaway books for y'all tonight. Let's see, this one. This is a fun book that with cover art by Mike Deodato that features a big battle between Namor and Black Panther. So it's a very cool book to have. Always wish we could have seen this version in live action. Then we've also got, courtesy of Dodson, a copy of Paul, Close Encounter of a Real Kind. This is one of the gospel comics of the 70s. I figured, tying into the theme of the week, Easter week, this is a cool story. Of course, it is not a period piece. It's a modern retelling of the story of Saul turning and becoming Paul. If you're a channel member, you're going to be able to. You'll have the option to upgrade. And one of the upgrade giveaways I've got tonight is a very, very low grade copy of Black Goliath #1. It's missing a lot of little chunks out of the cover, but guess what? No grade is better than. Or low grade is better than no grade. So first appearance of Black Goliath. So it's a cool book to add to the personal collection. But again, you don't have to take it. We'll have these other books available as well. So I'm gonna go and bring the guys out, and then I'm gonna go through the chat and give shout outs to everybody. But first up, let's welcome JT. JT, what's up?
What's going on? Happy to be here. Showing my face again. Probably won't have a lot to say about these books, but I'm gonna try to participate as much as I can. So yeah.
Awesome. All right, man. All right, let's take it over to Paul. Paul, what's up?
All right, hi everybody. I'm back.
Boo.
I'm back. Oh, JT. Anyway, I'm back. Thank you guys for showing up tonight. I don't know what JT and Carlos are going to say tonight, but me and Billy will give y'all the right information that y'all are looking for. Oh, look at that. Go to low.
I Lie Popeye.
Yeah, I Lie Popeye 4.
Okay.
I bet everybody knows what this homage is, but okay.
Yeah.
But thank y'all for showing up. Hit the like button. Thank you to the channel members who have subscribed, or are channel members of the channel. And yeah, thank you all. Ready to get started.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Oh, I like that cover. Paul, hold up that Popeye book that you were talking about.
There it is.
Does it have anything to do with this?
Oh yeah, there you go.
Ooh.
What is that? Is that the reprint? Yeah, it's exactly like it,
Oh, nice.
Oh, JT, I knew you, dog. I knew you got one.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. I'm most interested in that one. Is that what is that? Which book is that?
Which one? Oh, this is
Crypto.
DC and Sonic.
No, he means the last book.
What?
The Supergirl.
Yeah, Crypto.
No, Superdog. Yeah. Crypto.
Oh, Superdog. Here you go. Here's Superdog.
Oh,
that's a
okay.
good cover.
Now this one is
That's the hottest book of the week right there.
Yep.
Oh yeah. This is the same thing. Summer of Superman special. The Crypto.
Oh, okay.
And then this
Nice.
one,
Yeah.
I like that one.
you know, boy
Nice.
had to pick up the Zatanna.
Oh yeah, of course. That's the Derek Chew.
Nah, this is Sweeney Bod. Sweeney something?
Oh yeah, Sweeney Bob, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Nice.
Very cool. All right, let's go to the let me go to the chat and just say hey to people and give some shout outs real quick before we get things going. El Green Machine popping in to say first hello everybody. A bunch of Carlos logos, Australian AC, good day mate, good to see you. Dagger Cards saying it back. Emma Dudley, hello everyone.
I didn't
Hello.
know Carlos could speak Australian.
David Dotson says howdy everyone, good to see you as well. Wolverado popping in. Evening, folks. Anyone else find it ironic that the resurrection show is running late? Hey, better late than never. Liz Barnes dropping in, saying hello to everybody. Let's see. Mary Jimenez, good to see you as well, hanging out with us. We're always glad when you're here. Dagger Card says, is that also the first appearance of Black David? Not. I see what you did there. Nice. Joffrey Castro, good to see you as well, buddy. And then, yeah, glad that y'all are all hanging out with us tonight. Thanks for tuning in. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a chill, a little bit shorter night. In observance of Holy Week, we will also not have an episode of Comics on Demand this Friday. It's Good Friday. So my encouragement to you, and I'll share it again at the end of this story, is to make some time to reflect on just the concept of resurrection, because it really is the linchpin of the entire faith. So let's go ahead and keep it moving. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to enter the first hashtag for everyone to put in, but then we're going to look at a few famous resurrections in comics. So ever since the beginning of ever since the Golden Age, we've seen comic book characters come and go, and it's become kind of a trope. So there's a couple that I'm going to point out, but then I was going to open it up. As we get kind of the brains going. I figured it'd be kind of cool if you guys chime in, Paul and JT, as ones come to mind. We'll get to that one in just a second. All right, I'll tell you what, let's do this. All right, go ahead and start entering the hashtag. It's hashtag Paul for your chance to win. Paul.
Oh.
All right, so cool book. So in the 70s, in the 70s, Barber and Spire put out gospel comic books. They were Christian comic books that would have a story, and in it would be, basically be a comic book parable, which is an earthly story with a heavenly message. And so this was actually a retelling of the story of Saul transforming into Paul. And so this is it's a fun one because it's like a soldier, like like a World War II type of story setting, as opposed to back in the times of ancient Jerusalem. So fun stuff. Mr. Collector, what is up? Good to see you, buddy. Glad that you're here, popping in to hang out with us as well.
I'm surprised you're here, Collector. You were showing off all your original arts, Collector.
All right. So while I'll give people a minute or two to enter to win. These books are collectible. They are a thing. There's people like me that do collect them. So they are collectible. These gospel comics, they are fun books, and you can build a whole set of them. So it's a fun thing to add to the collection.
Mhm.
And I felt like it was appropriate to
I was gonna
add
be sick tonight.
right now. All right, let's
I was gonna
see.
be sick tonight.
Let me go ahead and.
Whoa.
What's up, Gerald Yates? Good to see you. Glad that you are here popping in with us.
I don't know what you're talking about, Liz. I ain't got none.
All right.
I don't got none. That's Carlos.
There we
Right,
go.
Carlos?
All right. So the first up, most obvious one that we could talk about when it comes to when it comes to the whole subject of resurrection. Their most famous death in comic books is the death of Superman. So I recently picked up a set of trade paperbacks that tell the entire story. All three story arcs connected to the death of Superman, because it wasn't just the death of Superman. He died. He died, and then came back. And what I think is kind of cool to talk about with this character tonight, with the death of Superman, is Superman especially in film, has been portrayed as like a messianic kind of figure,
Do
a
you know
Christ-like.
do you know how they came up with Death of Superman?
And so, no, I mean, not right offhand.
So they were gonna do the wedding of Superman and Lois, but the show delayed them from doing that because they wanted it to align with the Lois and Clark show. So then they came up with, we're just gonna kill him.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
All right. So the death of Superman, Superman as a character has been considered like a messianic figure, and that's kind of how he gets portrayed in film. Kind of the idea of the all powerful character
faster than a speedy bullet.
that sacrifices himself for the greater good of
Powerful than a
humanity.
locomotive.
And so, when the death of Superman came out, it was one of the top selling comic books of the 90s. And, I think most collectors have some version of the death of Superman books, in their collection. For me, I've got individual copies of the books, as well as I'm trying to get the camera to focus on it. There we go. I've got some of the individual books. I don't have the entire run. It is something that I want to build. But I did pick up these graphic novels because I found a good deal on them. Because I wanted to be able to have them to read.
See, look at
cool
Lois. Lois is
cool
crying back then. That's what they used to do. Now they're independent women.
What's cool on the back of these is that it's got all the covers of the individual issues that are collected in this leading up to the death of Superman. So that there's more stuff that happened before, but it's and then you see the first appearance of Doomsday there. So the death of Superman, it was one of the best selling comic books of all time. People were going in and buying stacks of them on just kind of on the investment portfolio thing. People thought they were going to be worth a ton of money moving forward, and and I mean, it made the news. It made the headlines. It was a major deal and a big deal. I don't think anybody really believed that he was not coming back. It was just a question of how and when they would bring back the original Superman. But what I thought was interesting, is they really kind of spread this out. So you had the death of Superman, which was the first storyline. All right, and this is not all the issues that go with it. But then, in addition to that, there was the World Without a Superman storyline, where they kind of tried to show what the DC universe would look like if Superman was no longer a part of it. And I think that's pretty cool. I don't think it was, this was a big sales event for them. It boosted sales for DC Comics in a massive way because you took the number one most powerful character and you kill him, and he's like the original superhero, the original comic book superhero. And so I thought it was neat that they did this world without Superman. And then, of course, again, also here, there's all the different issues that tie in as well. But, inevitably, like I said, it was the expectation was always that Superman would come back somehow. And he did come back, but not immediately and not in a straightforward fashion. And I thought one of the best parts of the whole Death of Superman arc, the big huge arc that lasted for so long, was the return of Superman that actually led to the creation of 4 brand new characters.
Yeah.
And you've got Cyborg Superman, Steel, the Eradicator, and Superboy, who was the genetic clone of 50% Clark Kent and 50% Lex Luthor. So this was an interesting way to bring him back. Of course, those 4 characters stepped up almost immediately after Superman's death, but it wasn't until well after his death that the actual Superman himself came back in the all-black Superman suit that we're familiar with. And I think it's one of those things that's just a unique part of comic history. That the number one most powerful superhero, like the original, the OG, the OP, comes back, and he's wearing this, the very cool '90s mullet, and then the very cool, the all black suit. So, but of course, it was kind of a foregone conclusion that he was coming back. Because of what we know today, the way we look at it today, and the fact that no comic book company was ever going to get rid of its most recognizable character. I mean, Superman he's just part of the fabric of comic books. You can't get rid of Superman. You can change his look temporarily. You can have other characters that step in for a short time, but he's Superman. You can't get rid of him forever. So I don't know that it was ever in doubt that he would come back, other than to the characters going through it in the pages of the comic book. And it was neat to see all the different little plot lines. Supergirl, the 4 replacement Superman, Lois Lane, all the members of the Justice League, all the different characters that were having to cope with it. And just seeing how they dealt with it was an interesting, it was a very interesting thing. So just wanted to get thoughts from you guys. Yeah, it's like Coke Classic. That's right. Black suit and a mullet. There you go. Nothing more 90s than that.
What do you have to say? Yeah, I got
what are you guys' thoughts on the death of Superman and then the resurrection of Superman? What were your thoughts?
Okay, so this was back in the 90s, so I was like a real little kid back then. But I remember picking up that comic just because the news was saying, oh, this will be a big investment. It's going to be worth a lot of money in the future. And I remember my dad would give me like $5. I would have to do all the chores, everything, cut the grass, everything for $5 every 2 weeks. So all I had was $5. It was like, can I buy this comic book, or do I want to buy some candy, go to the arcade, whatever? But I went and invested in that comic book, and it's worth like $1.50 today, the same price it was back then.
No, it's they're worth depending on which one you got. They're still worth. I mean, they're worth a few bucks.
You think so? Well, I always see the dollar bin when I see them. I'm like, oh, they dollar bin.
If you watch, they've been disappearing from the dollar bins for a while.
Okay.
Now I'm not saying they're worth a lot, but
Yeah, I don't even think I have a first print. I think I have like a second or third print, something like that.
Well, hey, the later printings are actually, I think, more valuable on some of the issues. Yeah, yeah, you ought to take a look at it. Wolverado says he was the only 6 foot tall 5-year-old.
Right. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
because you all know that the rule of thumb is that JT is actually about 7'3"
Boo.
in real life.
Boo.
So
Yep. Yeah, and then I did enjoy the second arc, like you said, the Superman coming back. I thought that was cool. We got to have the Superboy with the leather jacket on. All that was dope. And then you got Steel. I didn't care for the Eradicator and the Cyborg Superman. The
yeah,
other two were cool. Yeah.
I thought that's what I think that's one of the things that was cool about that the arc was that they didn't stick with just one new character.
Right.
By going with 4 new characters, and the reason they did that was one per Superman title, because at the time Superman had the 4 ongoing titles, so they got one per title. But the interesting thing was that like everybody had kind of like one that they like all of us fans had ones that we just really thought were cool. If you were a kid, if you were a high schooler like me, I think my favorite was Superboy and then the Cyborg Superman, because I still remember reading that scene where Lois Lane says that, like, where they're analyzing the Cyborg Superman, and they say that the places where it was cyborg, like where it was machine, those parts of him were the ones that got damaged by Doomsday. They had like analyzed it and done, I just thought that was kind of a cool kind of storyline where she was saying that she felt something. She felt like, on the surface he was like that, but then she felt like Steel had the heart of Superman more than any of the others. And so yeah, so it was interesting. Everybody had like favorites.
Right.
So Paul, I know Paul's got some stuff he's showing off here. Paul, what do you like?
Yeah,
what are your
the death of Superman. Like I said, everything I was telling you guys, I learned from right here because it has like special commentary by the Bruce Timm and all them. They tell you all this, but this came out at Walmart. I had to stand in line for like 3 hours to get this thing because everybody wanted the exclusive Death of Superman CD-ROM, because you can put it in the CD-ROM and then it'll tell you the whole story. That's what that one is. Yeah. And then, like I said, I had finally picked this up thanks to Lone Star.
Ooh.
Got the 4th print.
I need that.
That's
Wait,
the 4th
print. It's a 4th print?
I think so. It's a 4th, 5th, right? 5th.
I didn't know they went that deep on printings.
Yeah, I think there's a 1st, 2nd. Yeah, it's a 5. It says up there. Oh, it's under the thing.
Oh yeah, look at that. It's the 5th printing.
Yep. DC logo. Yeah, so that changed everybody's life. Like JT said, he saved up a lot of money and bought them, and then that turned out great for JT. But yeah, it was a turning point. And then having the funeral for a friend, that also told you like he's really dead. And then the reign of the Superman, and you're like, what? You need 4 or 5 for one? That's
four character. And well, and then remember, Supergirl was also trying to take his place.
Yeah, so you had 10 to replace 1. So yeah. The Justice League tried to go in. But yeah, that was an iconic death. I mean, DC went hella crazy when they killed him off.
Yeah, it was definitely, I mean, it was a big deal because after that you saw them trying to emulate the death of, major characters. I mean, that was the one that kicked it all off.
I think why that's because they were going to do that with Batman, but then they just broke his back or something.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
They did it with
no,
Batman. They did it with what's his name? Later on down the road, they did it with
I
I'm
got this.
blank.
This is the resurrection of Thanos. I think he died in Marvel 2-in-1 Annual 2.
Oh,
And then
cool.
this is his resurrection right here. And then in 44, he gets the Infinity Gauntlet. Yeah, this is his resurrection issue right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's a good one to have right there. Oh, very cool. That's a good resurrection
Well,
one.
this is the so they killed Wolverine. This is the return of Wolverine.
How many times have they killed Wolverine?
I have no idea.
Right.
This one is, now, I like how he's coming out of the rocks.
Yeah. He's coming out. Here, hold it up again.
Oh,
How do you get his body back?
I have no idea.
So no, those are some good examples of some resurrections. And that's kind of one of the interesting things about comic books is that remember comic books. We've talked about before on the show. It's a uniquely, distinctly American art form. Number one. Number two, it's modern mythology. Instead of telling the stories of the different, gods like the Greeks did, we tell stories of the different heroes, the different superheroes, these superpowered beings, these kind of ideals. And I think that's a big reason why so many of us love comic books is because it's very clear, there's good and there's evil, and pretty much all the time, except for Watchmen, good always wins, and then, on top of that, you have these characters that can die, and even if they die, we get to see them come back. And I think there's something comforting in us as people, as human beings, that seeks out the idea of resurrection, that seeks out the idea of being born again, that seeks out the idea of of this life not being all there is. I think there's something natural in us. That's why our creations, these characters keep coming back. Here's another one. Let me throw this one out, Paul. I want to see what you think. Since you knew the origin of how the death of Superman came into being, what is the origin for the death of Jason Todd, Robin?
Oh, okay. So I was talking to Jim Starlin. Me and him became best of friends.
That's
I think JT had to call security on him, but that's another story. But anyway, so I asked him about the 900 number that you called to kill Jason, and they said that it was actually pretty close, but he was shocked that people would call in to kill him. But the DC hierarchies were like really thinking the fans were not going to kill him, and then when they actually did it, then they have to
roll it back, and tell everybody what the kind of the deal was with the like roll it back and just say kind of what was the what was the genesis of the whole thing? Like, how did the whole thing start?
What do you mean, like how Jason?
Well, kind of roll it back, because not everybody might know about the one eight. Was it an 800 number, a 900 number, or something like that?
It was a 900 number. They said, right?
Yeah, you had to pay.
Right. You had to call. But when I asked him about it, he was just shocked that everybody, because like I said, they had the idea, but DC higher ups were saying that they trusted the fans that they weren't going to kill him. But he said that they called and by a slim margin, they had to kill him. So I mean, the only guy to steal the wheels off the Batmobile, guys. I mean, God, like, the only guy.
That's not his claim to fame. All right, so the chat is jumping in. Okay, this is
I picked up this today.
Nice.
Thank you, Dad. I don't even know
Nice.
what this book is.
All right. David Dodson says Craven buried Spider-Man. He crawled out of the grave. True.
Oh yeah, the
Jonathan Dodson says they made us think Tony Stark died at the end of Armor Wars. Then 3 years later, he was shot in the chest and died on the operating table. Then brought him back. Southern Comic Geek says Paul was an 8-year-old boy and called DC to get them to kill Jason Todd. No.
yeah. You're just
Paul-
mad. You're just mad, Mississippi, because I got the original art.
No, actually, what it was, Paul was a 28-year-old young man and called DC to get them to kill Jason Todd.
All I know
right.
is it hurt Jim Starlin to kill Jason Todd. That's what he was telling me. He had to take a little minute because he's like, give me a little minute, and he's like, yeah, just didn't want to do it. No, I gave him a hug and told him it's okay, buddy.
Well, isn't okay? So isn't it true that because I heard this somewhere or read this somewhere that Jim Starlin, maybe it was Jim Starlin, maybe it was somebody else. Was Jim Starlin the one who had started to get a reputation for killing off characters, or was it somebody else? Because it was.
I don't think it was him killing off people.
Was it this one that was? I can't remember. I get them confused sometimes. And there was somebody that I think was responsible for a couple of famous deaths. And I remember he shared in an interview that what do you call it? That he was getting a reputation for killing off popular characters. But that's the wild thing, is that Jason Todd was actually not a very popular Robin. He wasn't a very
he's
popular.
the only one to steal the wheels off the Batmobile. That's what I'm talking about.
This is true.
How you gonna put the Batmobile on blocks? Jim did kill Captain Marvel, Cancer.
Let's see here. We're gonna get back to the chat here. All right, Wolverado says that was the number to kill him off. 1-900 Paul's fault. I guess that was the number.
That was not my fault.
Paul's dad whipped him after he got his telephone bill.
What the hell?
$1.99 a minute. 900 720 2666. All right. Paul still calls 900 numbers. All right. Some of you, I don't know what kind of 900 numbers y'all are calling.
Yeah, man, we're talking about. So I think he only pressed. So anyway, but back to what we were saying. All you do is call the number and press 1 and 2. I don't know what y'all are talking about. But anyway, like I said, Jim Starlin.
You had to pay to call it, though, right?
But
you press 1 or 2.
He had to take. Guys, you don't understand. He had to take. When I asked him that, he had to actually pause because it really hurt him. It was something he didn't want to do. Just to see that man get sad like that, the hug I gave him, he's like, "Thank you, man. I appreciate that."
Minus the rest of the story.
I know, right? He said, "I appreciate that up until the hug."
Right.
Well, no, he didn't.
All right.
JT, you were there. You saw me.
We got Jean Grey, aka Phoenix, known for resurrection.
Oh yeah, for Phoenix.
Brought back multiple times. That's true. We're gonna get to her. Don't worry, folks. We're gonna get to her. All right. Jim did kill Captain Marvel with cancer, killed Thanos and Adam Warlock also. Okay, well, maybe it was him. I just feel like I thought it was him that said it. Oh, wait, no, look. And boom goes the restraining order.
But see, look, that's why he came back.
Right.
Mississippi.
Paul, you got to understand that, look, when he tells you, let me go, that means you have to stop.
Let me go.
Hey, JT was there. JT's like, that's my best friend, Paul.
No, I know. JT was the one that pulled you off of him.
Right.
JT pulled you away from him.
Hey, get off him, Paul.
No, he didn't.
and then Strictly came running by and grabbed Jim Starlin and ran off with him.
No.
All right. I'm just glad he had a push button phone. All right. Okay, so these are two popular resurrections. Let's keep it moving on to a couple more. Oh, Wolverado. Well, where do zombies and vampires fall in the spectrum of resurrections? I don't know if I'd call either of those. I would call those reanimations, not necessarily resurrections, because both of those movie monsters or both of those monsters come back, but they're not the same.
Yeah.
So, well, no, and I mean, but they come back as like a monstrous form.
Monster. Yeah.
So, all right, tell you what, let's do this first giveaway, and then when we bring it back, we're gonna hit a couple of additional resurrections. Because remember, we just talked about the death of Jason Todd. We haven't talked about the resurrection. I want to talk about that. So let's go ahead and do this giveaway. Here we are. So it is hashtag Paul, and you will get this comic book. This is
Carlo.
I'm gonna. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go because I was thinking about it. I was like, I have a bunch of them that we need to get that Lone Star Heroes sent over here. So we need to give away. I have some of the first appearances of the different Superman characters that came back. So we will get to that in just a moment. All right, hashtag Paul is what you wanted to enter to win. We're going to go on that right now. Good luck to everybody. Here we go.
Carlos. Come on, Carlo.
This is Paul's greatest joy during the show.
Come on, there goes his name. Wolverado. Oh, hell.
Congrats.
Whoever wins.
Wolverado, you got 4 minutes. Oh, Wolverado ain't even here.
All right, Wolverado. This is the book. Don't do that. Don't have Paul sign it because there's no telling what he'll write on it. And I almost feel like it's. I don't know. I don't know if it would be sacrilege.
The loser, Wolverado.
No. Congratulations, Wolverado. This is yours.
Wolverado, you got 4 minutes. Claim it.
I'm gonna put.
He ain't even here.
The poor man is commenting his heart out in the chat.
Right.
I don't see it.
Like, I'm here.
Block.
All right. Let's see.
I don't see Wolverado. I see Emma. I see Dagger. I see David Dotson. I see Leah. I don't see Wolverado. You got 4 minutes. Put up the timer.
Terrible. That's terrible. All right. Wolverado, this is yours, buddy. I'm gonna go and look and see if I've got the resurrection, because I may do the resurrection of Superman or the Superman Return books instead of this one, unless somebody wants it, and then they can do that. Okay, so let's see. He'll write the greatest host ever. That's right. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring it back out here. Okay, so obviously somebody already brought it up. Probably the most famous resurrection on the Marvel side of things, and her character was all about like just the themes of resurrection were like central to just kind of her character. Even the name of the character, Phoenix. Phoenix, the Phoenix is a mythological creature that rises from the dead. JT, do you want to, and what does it say that I don't actually have a copy of the Phoenix, the Dark Phoenix saga, like a collected edition? I don't have one of those here. All I have is the individual issues, and those are tucked away in a bin. JT, do you want to, oh no, Wolverado. Paul's hair color is constantly resurrected. He'll write the greatest host ever. Much appreciated. I'm not going to let him write on the book. I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I know it's a comic book, but it almost feels like a little bit sacrilegious. I don't know. But okay, so JT, how well do you know the story of the Phoenix? The whole Phoenix saga, the Dark Phoenix saga.
I do not. I have not went that far back into X-Men.
Okay. So the gist of it is, and there's quite a bit of story that goes into it. So I'm going to kind of just very cursory summation of it is that Jean Grey she sacrifices herself to save the team, and they think she's dead, but she's actually in a cocoon, and the Phoenix, which is a cosmic life force, has come into her, and it begins to kind of it brings her back to life, and then it begins to kind of change her personality, her power set, everything, to the point where she becomes too dangerous to continue living, and so she sacrifices herself again to save the galaxy. I think I'm hitting the high points for that one, but if I'm not, somebody in the chat correct me. But that is, the Dark Phoenix saga is by most considered to be the quintessential X-Men story, because it deals with their powers. It has cosmic, galactic implications for the story. It has, it has the kind of that love triangle between Wolverine, Cyclops, and Jean Grey comes to a head because these two men both have to see her die.
Mhm.
And it also just one of the most powerful female characters in Marvel lore. It actually, we get to see her fully at her strongest when she sacrifices herself. And so it's it's an interesting story. It's great drama. It's great cosmic stuff. But within it it's just wrapped up in it is this idea that even the most powerful being can die, but then that being can be resurrected. And so I think it's one of those, it's just one of those classic stories again that we're just drawn to because we like the idea of it not ending with this human life. We like that's my kind of working theory for comic books, and being our mythology for the United States specifically, but just as a whole. But then how that ties into what we're going to talk about in just a minute, which is Jesus and Resurrection Sunday, which is also known as Easter Sunday, and we're going to get to that. And I pulled this. JT, check this out. When I found out that this existed and I found a copy, I couldn't pass it up. But check this out.
What is it? Oh, okay. Graphic novel of the Bible?
Yeah. It is the Bible as a comic book. And so, it's a really, really nice piece. Now, obviously, it's not the entire Bible, but it's more than 230 stories that are in chronological order.
Wow.
And so, I just thought this was one of the neatest things. It's beautiful. It's really well done. I remember I gave one to my nephew a few years ago. Well, quite a few years ago, I think. I think he was about like 11 or so. But I just thought this was a really cool.
Does it say what books it starts with and ends with?
Oh yeah. It's got like a table of contents like an actual Bible. So you can see. Here, let me show this without.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So, and it gives what the scripture references are for it. And then let's see. We'll talk about these in a second. I know I see Paul. Paul, I'm going to bring you back on when you're back in place. I know you had to step away for a minute. Wolverado, the Phoenix Force also cloned Jean, creating Madeline Pryor. And then, do you have the DC Treasury edition of the Bible? I do not. I do collect faith-based. I do collect faith-based comic books, and so I'm always looking for leads on those. I've even had some folks send them in as AOKs. Let's see the Illuminator, the 2-part storyline. When Thomas Nelson Publishers, which is a Bible publisher, teamed up with Marvel Comics, I have a book for them. It's down there somewhere. I'm going to snag it and show it. Let's see. They also have an action Bible, that has heroes and villains. And so yeah, so that's they have different ones that you can pick up. It's C36, pretty cool book. I don't know what C36 means. I don't know if that's the size. I like the Bible Man comics. Okay. So this, let me see. I'll show it real quick, and then we're gonna go back over to. So this actually does tell the kind of the story of the crucifixion.
Mm-hmm.
It goes through all the way through. I'll show this. Yeah, and this is what we celebrate on Black Friday. So for us as a family, for us as a family, kind of the entire week is, it is Holy Week, and there are scripture readings to go with each week. For us as a family, though, what the weekend looks like is Friday is a time of reflection. We're going to watch a kid-safe version. We're not going to show them the Passion of the Christ movie yet, because I think that'd be a bit much for them. But there are kid-safe versions that kind of tell the story leading up to the crucifixion, and then from there, that's a good one. But then from there, I think picking up my mother, she has a hard time getting out, and she wanted to go to service this. She usually watches online now, but I think we're going to take her to a mass, so she can worship and enjoy the and just kind of enjoy that time of reflection. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so we're going to rewind just a little bit. So Paul, we had started to talk about the Phoenix. I was going to see if you had anything to add to that or to say about Jean Grey, the Dark Phoenix, and just kind of that saga and your thoughts on the resurrection in that saga.
Yeah, that was a game changer for the X-Men title. They made a Fox movie out of it. I think they did it in the Fox animation, the X-Men Adventures, I think, right? Yeah, so her dying and coming back, and then coming back as Dark Phoenix. That was great.
Okay, cool. All right, let me bring it back over here. Let me bring it back. Okay, so real quick, going back to so we hit Phoenix. So for this one, for Jason Todd, remember, two big sidekicks died. Bucky, and then there it is. Let me hang on. Let me show you.
Wear your hood.
Oh wait, hang on. Okay, hey, why don't you? Do you want to recap the resurrection of Jason Todd? I need to take this call real quick. Okay, Paul.
Yeah. What? Oh, okay. So, yeah. So they did Death in the Family, and they made a phone number for you to call to say if you wanted him alive or dead. And
I'll pick dead.
Hey man, you weren't allowed to tell what you did, but yeah, I mean, the polling was he had to die. So, but this one is Batman 635. This is the return of Jason Todd. What's crazy is I think a couple issues later, maybe a couple issues, Batman doesn't know he's fighting Jason Todd till he reveals himself to Batman. And this really messes Batman up because he's like, he wanted to do nothing but good, but he's the only kid that he felt like he failed because he died, and
he did.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying like he felt like with him, everybody else prospered. I think Dick Grayson became Nightwing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have I'm trying to remember that.
Tim Drake.
Yeah, didn't he? One of them became Batman Beyond. And some Batman man
Nah,
book. Yeah, I think it was.
Beyond's from the future.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But everybody did well. Batgirl, she got paralyzed, but then she became Oracle. And then who was the his son? His son is
Damian Wayne.
Damian Wayne. Yeah, there you
He's
go.
my favorite.
Yeah, if y'all want something to really, DC knocks this stuff out of the park.
Yeah,
But this is Batman.
They really do. They really do.
Batman Bad Blood. This is where Batman gets kidnapped, and all the Bat family has to find him. But okay, you back? I'm sorry. But
Yeah,
really
no,
good.
okay.
It's
It's
really
okay.
good. It's real good.
So
it's not for kids, guys. Yeah, be of age.
So we see that was Jin, and Jin got called in at the last minute to work, so he apologized. He wishes he could have been here tonight, but he got called in to work at the last minute. He would have been here tonight, but he wasn't able to. But no, so Jason Todd, he comes back as the Red Hood.
Mhm.
But then it wasn't until so that was when he comes back. That's the first Jason Todd as Red Hood, being back. But then we actually get to see more of the story in like snippets of the story when Judd Winnick explored it in Annual number 25. And that's another really good book to have. And that's where we find out what happened, and we find out that Jason Todd got transported to one of Ra's al Ghul's Lazarus pits.
Yeah,
Lazarus, of course, being named for the biblical character who was brought back to life by Jesus, but he's put into the Lazarus pit and he's brought back to life. And then in Red Hood: The Lost Days, a miniseries that Judd Winnick wrote, we see even more of the gaps filled in. The annual kind of gives us the overview, but then the miniseries kind of really explores it. All of them are well worth reading. I think Judd Winnick is a fantastic writer, and the Under the Red Hood storyline I love. The annual is fantastic, and then the miniseries is also really well done. Because a lot of times those miniseries are almost kind of like, they're fluff. They're just really to sell extra comic books, but those were actually really well done.
And he's in Red Hood and the Outlaws, right? 13.
Yeah. I mean, the character Jason Todd as a character has never been more popular than when he came back as Red Hood. And so it's wild that it took him dying and being resurrected for him to hit popularity that he never had before. And so, that's kind of ties into some of the thoughts I have about Robin, just the role of Robin and the character. But yeah, so I thought, I think it's really interesting, because again, it just keeps coming back to this idea that we as human beings have this desire and kind of this innate, deep desire for this life to not be all there is. And so our heroes, our creations, even when they suffer a major death, we have to see them brought back to life. And so I think it's,
I don't know, blue. Which Superman did you like, the red or the blue one?
Okay. Anyway, I'm going to flash up that comment from Mr. Collector that says we apologize in advance for Paul. All right.
Well, he did come back as red.
So, any other major resurrections that I'm sure that that's the thing, is there's so many of them.
Yeah.
Are there any others that y'all can think of?
No.
That you want to
What
point
do you
out?
think, JD? You haven't said anything today, JD.
I
that's
know.
not true.
Not that I can think of. I know Uncle Ben has stayed dead, so that's a good one.
Oh yeah, that's right.
This
Uncle
is called
Ben.
Resurrection. God.
I know, but I'm just saying there's
when
one person has died and not come back.
one person that has died and has not come back. Interesting. Loki. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. That's deep dive. That's beyond where I'm at with knowing it.
Low-key.
What about Gwen
let me show this real quick because we were talking about it, so I wanted to just show this. So okay, these were put out by Best Buy a few years ago. So this is the collected edition for Under the Red Hood, which is the return of Jason Todd, as it collects that issue that Paul showed. Beautiful art by Doug Mankey. I love this story. I just think it's so well done. I love Nightwing's role in it. I love how the whole Bat family is tied into this. But this special edition from Best Buy, the coolest thing about it is it's a hardback, which I love, right? And I love the story. But then at the back, because remember it's Best Buy, it's got the movie, animated movie.
Yeah, that was
good. This was a really cool special edition.
How long did you wait in line for that?
I didn't.
What?
Oh, ordered it online.
I forgot.
You know they had the internet back then.
You don't have to wait in line. Yeah, but guys, if y'all haven't seen the animated show, yeah, that's the one issue where he
takes off the mask.
It's so well written. It's so well, because the thing is, Batman immediately, because remember, the Jason Todd shows up first during the Hush storyline, but then it's Clayface, or it gets switched out for Clayface. So that's actually addressed in this, that it was Jason Todd, that he did make a quick appearance, and then he slipped out, and Clayface did it, and they did it all to mess with Batman's head. But here, Batman he doubts that it's Jason Todd, because his scientific mind, his logical, rational mind, just can't accept that somebody was brought back from the dead. And so he talks to different characters. He goes and talks to different characters about their resurrection. Like, so he talks to Oliver Queen, who died and came back as Green Arrow. He talks to, I think Hal Jordan pops up. And then he talks to Superman about when Superman died and came back. And so, Batman, like, his logical, rational mind is fighting it, but ultimately and it's kind of cool because, in the resurrection account in the Bible, when Jesus comes back and he goes to see his disciples for the first time, a man named Thomas doubts it, and Jesus says, "Come and put your fingers in the wound from the crucifixion." Thomas does it, and then he believes. What's interesting in here is that Red Hood takes a batarang, he scrapes his head, so it's a sampling of hair, blood, skin, DNA, and he gives it to, like, physical proof, gives it to Batman, and says, "Here, you can check it for yourself, so you know it's me." And I just thought that's interesting. Playing in with this whole theme of resurrection, we see all these different little threads woven together, and they tie in. And I still, like I've said before, to me, it just continues as this overarching desire that we have as human beings for this to not be all there is. And so I'm going to.
The cartoon, he didn't do that. He did. Didn't Batman?
It's in the comic book. It's in the comic book.
Yeah. I'm saying in the cartoon, he didn't do that.
They can't put everything in the art in the series. So we're gonna start wrapping it up. But I'm just gonna close it out with just a quick.
When he finds out, it changes him forever.
With a quick something about this. Well, did you guys have anything more about any of the resurrection stories in comics?
Yeah, JG.
No, you're good to go, Carlos.
All right. Thanks, JT. I love it. All right. So the deal is that this thread that runs through us, that desires for this life to not be all there is, my personal belief, and I'm not going to shove my beliefs on anybody, but I'm going to share them. So I wanted to take just a minute and say, look, I'm as broken and messed up a person as anybody else. I'm not perfect. I make tons of mistakes consistently. A lot of times y'all get to see them live on air. But it happens. I'm just a human being. But my firm core belief is that, that thread with, when I was 16 years old, that thread within me that was seeking for something else, for something more, I found that answer in Jesus. And so coming into this week, this Holy Week, where we're talking about resurrection and themes of resurrection. And, I like to be open with y'all. I like to have conversations with y'all and, tell y'all know I'm not, I don't shy away from sharing things, including my faith. But, I wanted to say that, my understanding that Jesus was that answer to that longing I had for this to not be all there is completely came true. It's not perfect, but I came to an understanding that there had been something between me and God, and that was, sin. And I still sin. I mess up again, like I said, daily. I screw up in all kinds of ways. You can ask my family, you can ask my friends. But that sin, I had the opportunity to have that wiped away by Jesus's death on the cross. And it was a physical and real death that happened. And and there was a lot that led up to it. But when Jesus voluntarily went to that cross, he did so to carry the sins for every living being, past, present, and future, and including mine. And I remember at the age of 16, I realized that, and I made a decision to accept Jesus into my heart. And I remember from one moment to the next, something about my life was different. I saw things as differently. I started to learn and understand and realize that this life isn't all there is, that it does continue on, and that there is a resurrection for each and every one of us after we leave this life that is because of the resurrection of Jesus. That's why Easter is the biggest deal in the Christian faith, even more so than Christmas. Yes, the birth of Jesus is important, but it's the resurrection that's the linchpin of it. And so I just, that's a personal story. It's a personal story that I'll share. It's my channel, so I'm going to share that. But I wanted to share that, and I wanted to give you a gentle encouragement that as we go into the weekend, and I may do a live broadcast over the weekend to talk a little bit more about this, maybe to read a little bit more. I may do that. I haven't fully decided yet, but I just wanted to give a gentle encouragement to take some time and reflect on the idea, the concept of resurrection. Reflect on, like what we talked about here, that why is it that we want our characters, our heroes, to come back to life after they've died? I don't think that desire in us would exist, or this comic trope would exist, if we didn't deep down have the desire and have that need and realize that there is something, and that's why we search for it, we look for it. I think it's why it's there. So just my thoughts, just a few thoughts. I hope you understand that it's coming from my heart, and it's coming from just another guy that is as imperfect and messed up as anybody else on the planet. I know sometimes the idea about people of faith is that, that they're not perfect and these things, and it's true. It's true. We're not, but I did want to share that. I thank you for allowing me to share that and continue to be here with you. We're going to bring we're going to go ahead and bring, we're going to go ahead and bring the episode to a close. But I do thank you for tuning in, and I do, again, offer that gentle encouragement. Take some time, think about it over the course of this week, and we'll be back at it next week. And like I said, I may go live sometime over the weekend and to talk about it. But I do thank you for being here tonight, and we will see you. So you take care, have a great rest of the night, and give resurrection a thought.